Let me be brutally honest with you. Attraction isn't luck. It isn't a gift the universe randomly hands out to a chosen few. It's not something written in the stars or determined by the shape of your jawline, the brand of your clothes, or the number of zeros in your bank account. Attraction is creation, and creation requires power. But here's the problem. Most men never discover that power. They spend their entire lives waiting for a woman to notice them, waiting for a sign, waiting for permission to act. They wait so long that the moment passes, and the only thing left is silence. You've seen that silence before. The kind that fills a room when she laughs at someone else's joke. The kind that swallows you whole when your message is left on read. The kind that burns your confidence from the inside out. You tell yourself it's bad luck, that maybe you're just not her type. But deep down, you know it's not luck. It's fear. Fear of stepping forward. Fear of rejection. Fear of being seen and still not being chosen. And that fear is what kills attraction before it ever begins. Because attraction doesn't wait for approval. It doesn't ask for permission. It grows in motion. It feeds on energy, direction, and certainty. The truth is, attraction isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build, from the way you carry yourself to the energy you radiate when you walk into a room. But most men are trapped in a loop. They spend their days studying signals, analyzing smiles, replaying conversations in their heads. They're like prisoners who believe the key to freedom is hidden in someone else's pocket. They think, if only she looked at me that way, if only she gave me a chance. But attraction doesn't begin when she looks at you. It begins when you finally look at yourself. Picture this. You walk into a room. You don't chase eyes. You don't try to impress. You move with calm certainty, every step grounded, every gesture deliberate. You don't speak to fill silence. You speak because your words matter. You don't seek attention. You draw it effortlessly through presence alone. That's the essence of power. That's the essence of attraction. Not the noise of trying, but the quiet dominance of knowing who you are. And here's the brutal truth no one tells you. Women don't respond to your words first. They respond to your energy. They feel it before you speak. They read it in your eyes, in your posture, in how you handle yourself when you're ignored, tested, or dismissed. You can't fake that energy. You can't script it. You can only build it. And once it's built, no woman can truly ignore it. That's why the men who win aren't the ones who talk the loudest. They're the ones who live with purpose so clearly that every woman can feel it before they even say a word. Because attraction isn't an accident. It's alignment. It's when your confidence, your discipline, and your self-respect are in sync. So stop waiting for the spark to appear. You are the spark. Stop hoping she'll see your value. Show it through how you walk, how you speak, how you live. And understand this. Attraction is not a yes or no. It's not a switch you flip. It's a process you command. If you're here, you're not looking for tricks. You're not here for pickup lines or shallow tactics. You're here because you want truth. You want power that lasts beyond a text message or a fleeting glance. You're here because you're ready to rise. Welcome to True Stoic Way. This is where you stop chasing attention and start building gravity. Where you stop performing and start becoming. Where you learn that attraction isn't about getting her, it's about mastering you. Now that you're here, it's time to burn the script you've been given. Because the story they told you about attraction is a lie. Let's destroy it, once and for all. Let's crush the biggest myth men have ever believed about women. Let's destroy the biggest lie about attraction. Attraction is not a light switch. It's not something that turns on or off based on a single glance, a clever line, or the symmetry of your face. Attraction is a fire, and fires don't appear by accident. They're built, fed, and sustained by energy, presence, and self-mastery. But most men never learn that. They still believe in the myth that if a woman isn't interested right away, the story is over. That first impressions are destiny. That if she doesn't feel sparks from the start, you've already failed. That belief has killed more confidence than rejection ever did, because it convinces men to stop before they've even started. The truth is, attraction isn't fixed. It's fluid. It grows. It shifts. It evolves. It breathes with time, energy, and experience. It's a living force, not a frozen judgment. Think back to your own life. Have you ever met someone you barely noticed at first, but as time went on, something changed? The way they spoke, the calm in their tone, the steadiness in their eyes. Suddenly you saw them differently, not because they changed their face or their clothes, but because their presence changed. That's the nature of attraction. It's dynamic. It deepens as people reveal their energy, their consistency, their calm. Psychology even has a name for this: the mere exposure effect. The more you're exposed to someone who carries grounded confidence, the more your brain associates them with safety and strength. Your dopamine system begins to anticipate their presence. The anticipation itself becomes attraction. In other words, the longer a man holds his power, the more magnetic he becomes. But here's the catch. Most men never hold it long enough. They crumble the moment they don't get instant feedback. She doesn't smile, she looks away, she acts uninterested, and he collapses. He interprets neutrality as rejection, when in truth, neutrality is opportunity. Because neutrality means this: the story isn't written yet. The door is still open. The fire just hasn't been lit. When you understand that attraction can grow, you stop needing her to validate you instantly. You stop acting desperate. You stop pushing for outcomes. You begin to embody stillness. And that stillness is what makes her curious. Imagine this. A man enters a room. At first, no one really notices him. He isn't flashy. He doesn't demand attention. But he moves with quiet certainty. He's centered, grounded, present. He doesn't chase conversations. Conversations come to him. He doesn't perform for laughter. His calm composure makes people lean in, and after a while, something shifts. The same people who overlooked him at first now feel drawn toward him, without even knowing why. That's the silent power of dynamic attraction. Every man who learns this truth changes forever, and that's what we teach here at True Stoic Way. Because when you realize attraction is a process, not a verdict, you stop waiting for permission and start shaping reality. Let me put it another way. Instant attraction is chemistry. It burns fast and dies faster. Earned attraction is gravity. It pulls deeper with time. One fades with the thrill of novelty. The other strengthens with respect and trust. Women aren't immune to this dynamic. They might not notice you at first. They might even dismiss you. But when they sense that you're living with clarity, when you have purpose, boundaries, and direction, they start to feel something different around you. It's not your words that draw them in, it's your energy. The calm that doesn't flinch. The silence that doesn't beg. The man who doesn't rush to prove himself. That's what separates the fleeting spark from lasting attraction. When a woman feels a man whose focus isn't dependent on her, whose presence feels grounded, unwavering, she starts to question herself. Why do I feel this pull? That question is curiosity. Curiosity turns into interest. Interest becomes attraction, and attraction becomes connection. It all starts with the fire you build within. This is why the Stoics were never slaves to emotion. They understood that power isn't reaction, it's response. That a man doesn't need to control others, he needs to master himself. When you master your presence, you no longer beg for attention. You become attention. So stop thinking attraction is something that happens instantly or not at all. Stop measuring your worth by her first impression. Stop seeing indifference as failure. Attraction is dynamic. It grows through consistency. It builds through purpose. It thrives on mystery. And it ignites through discipline. If she doesn't see your value today, that doesn't mean she never will. It just means she hasn't felt it yet. So hold your ground. Stay calm. Keep building the fire. Because in the end, attraction isn't about winning her approval. It's about radiating so much self-respect that the world can't ignore you. And once you understand that, you'll never chase validation again. You'll simply stand in your truth and let everything real be drawn to it. That's what it means to live the true Stoic way. Now let's go deeper. Let's uncover the silent trap that keeps men powerless. The trap of waiting for signs. He's sitting alone, staring at his phone. The screen lights up, a notification. His pulse jumps, but it's not her. So he waits. Minutes turn into hours. Hours into silence. And in that silence, something inside him dies. Not because she rejected him, but because he never acted. You've seen this man before. Maybe you've been him. The one waiting for a green light that never comes. The one who won't move until he's absolutely sure it's safe. The one mistaking hesitation for patience, when really, it's fear. This is the trap of waiting for signs. It's the silent death of masculine energy. And it's one of the main reasons men lose. Because while you're waiting for confirmation, life moves on. Someone else steps in. Not because he's better looking, not because he's richer, but because he moved. Hesitation kills attraction because it tells the world you don't trust yourself. It tells her that your confidence depends on her approval, your timing depends on her mood, and your worth depends on her response. That's not strength. That's surrender. Psychology calls this state learned helplessness. When you've been conditioned to believe your actions no longer matter, so you stop taking any. You convince yourself that fate, timing, or the right moment controls everything. You don't realize you've built your own cage, a cage made of doubt, fear, and hesitation. And the cruel irony? You're waiting for a sign that will never come, because attraction doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards initiative. Let me tell you something the Stoics understood long before modern psychology ever did. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us, some are not. A woman's mood, not up to you. Her first impression, not up to you. Her interest, not up to you. But your energy, your presence, your decision to act or stand still, those are always up to you." That's where power begins, not in her reaction, but in your control over yourself. A man who waits for permission is like a soldier asking the battlefield for mercy. A Stoic man doesn't wait. He moves with calm conviction. He doesn't need signs because he is the signal. He doesn't need to know the outcome to make a move. He trusts the move itself. And when a woman feels that energy, that unshakable certainty, it triggers something primal. Because deep down, attraction isn't about words or tactics. It's about safety and leadership. She feels safe with a man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't beg for signs, who doesn't need validation to act. If you master presence, she feels it. No words needed. Presence is the quiet confidence that says, "I'm here. I know who I am." and I don't need external permission to express it. It's the stillness in your eyes when others panic, the steadiness in your tone when others overthink. Presence is silent dominance, not control over others, but mastery over yourself. That's the kind of energy no one can ignore. And it's the kind of energy that only appears when you stop waiting. Because hesitation is a thief. It steals your time, your confidence, your opportunities. Every second you wait for a sign, you send one instead. A sign that says, I don't believe in my own power. So stop waiting. Stop analyzing every glance, every emoji, every silence. The only sign you need is the one within you, your decision to act. The moment you move without fear, the world rearranges itself around you. That's how attraction begins. That's how respect is born. Don't wait for the spark. Be the fire. Because the man who waits loses. But the man who moves wins without even chasing. That's the power of self-respect. That's the beginning of true Stoic dominance. Let's get one thing straight. Attraction built on surface value is temporary. Looks, money, status, they catch the eye, yes, but they don't hold attention for long. Because surface attraction fades the moment the mask slips. The moment the energy behind the appearance feels hollow. Deep attraction, on the other hand, that's something different. It isn't loud. It isn't desperate. It doesn't demand to be noticed. It pulls, quietly, magnetically, inevitably. Surface attraction screams, look at me. Deep attraction whispers, you can't stop looking. Every man has felt the difference, even if he can't explain it. When you rely on surface value, you're always performing, adjusting your tone, your clothes, your posture to fit what you think she wants. But when you live with deep value, purpose, composure, and inner calm, you don't perform. You simply exist with weight. And that weight draws others in without effort. Picture this: a crowded party. Music low enough to let the conversations breathe, but loud enough to blur the edges of meaning. Laughter, glasses clinking, the air filled with voices competing for attention. One man stands among them. He smiles too wide, speaks too fast, his gestures just a little too rehearsed. He's doing everything right. Dressed well, confident tone, easy charm. But something feels off. His words reach people's ears, not their hearts. He's seen, but he's not felt. Across the room, another man leans against the wall, calm and unhurried. He's not trying to dominate the space, yet the space bends around him. He listens more than he talks. When he does speak, his voice carries gravity, not volume, but depth. There's no performance in his eyes, just presence. And when he walks away, the air changes. People notice the silence he leaves behind. That's the difference between being visible and being unforgettable. Surface value entertains. Real value transforms the energy in the room. And here's the secret. Women can feel that difference instantly, not consciously, but through the ancient circuitry of the brain. Neuroscience calls it mirror neurons, the system that allows us to sense another person's emotional state just by observing them. It's why you can walk into a room and instantly know who's tense, who's confident, who's pretending. When a woman feels your calm, her nervous system mirrors it. When she senses your self-respect, her body registers safety. And when she recognizes your focus, the kind that doesn't waver under pressure, her subconscious labels it as leadership. That's why true attraction doesn't start in conversation. It starts in energy. A man who radiates inner order sends a clear message without speaking. I don't need your attention to know my worth. And paradoxically, that's exactly what makes him magnetic. At True Stoic Way, we don't chase validation. We cultivate presence. Presence is the bridge between the mind and the body. It's how your internal state communicates louder than words ever could. You can't fake it. You can't rehearse it. It's either built through discipline or it's not there at all. Surface value can trick the eye. Deep value reaches the nervous system. It's the reason why a man with average looks but extraordinary composure can outshine someone who has it all. Because women don't fall for perfection, they fall for certainty. And certainty can't be bought. It's earned through the small, invisible acts of self-respect you repeat every day. The man who trains when no one is watching, who holds his boundaries without anger, who speaks slowly because he's not afraid of silence, who doesn't flinch when life tests him. That man becomes unignorable, not because he seeks attention, but because he embodies something rare in a noisy world: peace. Real value isn't about convincing anyone, it's about alignment. Your actions, your words, and your energy all move in the same direction. That's why Stoicism is the ultimate foundation for attraction. It's not about emotional detachment, it's about emotional mastery. A Stoic man doesn't chase excitement, he cultivates stability. He doesn't depend on outcomes, he commands his response. And in doing so, he emits the rarest frequency in modern life: calm power. When you walk into a room with calm power, you don't need to compete. Your silence speaks louder than others' noise. Your stillness becomes tension. And that tension, that contrast, is the birthplace of attraction. You see, women don't fall for chaos. They fall for the man who anchors chaos. The man who brings clarity where there's confusion. The man whose energy says, no matter what happens, I don't lose myself. That's deep value. That's what turns invisible into unignorable. So stop trying to impress. Stop chasing reactions. Stop believing that surface tricks can replace inner gravity. Because once you embody deep value, once your purpose and your peace align, you don't just attract women. You attract respect, loyalty, and opportunities that surface-level charm will never reach. And when that happens, you'll realize something powerful. You were never meant to be noticed. You were meant to be felt. That's the essence of becoming unignorable. That's the beginning of true masculine presence. That's the true Stoic way. He holds the door open. He laughs at every joke. He remembers her coffee order, texts her good morning, and always asks how her day was. He's polite, thoughtful, reliable, and yet, she doesn't feel it. That invisible spark that makes her heart race never comes. He wonders what went wrong. I did everything right, he tells himself. I was nice. That's the problem. Being nice is safe, and safety rarely stirs attraction. Women don't fall for comfort. They fall for presence, for depth, for a man who challenges them to rise, not one who bends to please. Because nice is the bare minimum. It's expected. It's what waiters and strangers offer. But value, real value, is rare. A nice man says, whatever you want. A valuable man says, here's what I stand for. And that difference changes everything. Let's talk about James. James was the classic nice guy. He liked a woman named Sarah. She was smart, confident, and beautiful. The kind of woman who could command a room without saying a word. So James did what most men do when they meet someone like that. He tried to earn her approval. He agreed with every opinion she had even when he didn't. He laughed at jokes he didn't find funny. He canceled his own plans to be available for hers. He thought that if he removed all friction, she would finally see how good he was. But friction is what creates fire. And without it, there was nothing. Sarah liked James. She respected him. But she didn't feel him. Because he was always soft, always agreeable, always nice. You see, comfort doesn't create chemistry. Tension does. Not drama, not conflict, but the healthy tension that comes from strength meeting strength. Women don't fall for the man who gives them everything they want. They fall for the man who gives them what they need: truth, leadership, direction. Someone who stands on his own 2 feet and isn't afraid to say no. That's what the nice guy never understands. He thinks being liked is the same as being desired. But approval is passive. Desire is earned. Why don't women fall for comfort? Because comfort is predictable, and predictability kills curiosity. When you're always available, always agreeable, you become emotionally flat. A background noise in her story, instead of the man who writes his own. Deep down, she might even pity you. And pity is the opposite of respect. Niceness feels like external control, doing things to manage how others perceive you. But value is internal order, doing things that align with who you are. One is manipulation disguised as kindness. The other is authenticity anchored in strength. That's the Stoic shift. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." He didn't say, "Be liked." He said, "Be." Because a good man doesn't chase approval. He lives by principle. He's not controlled by outcomes, praise, or validation. He's controlled by his own code. James eventually learned that. One day, after another week of polite smiles and unreturned energy, something in him changed. He realized he was tired of performing. He was tired of trying to be the man he thought Sarah wanted, and losing himself in the process. So he stopped. He stopped saying yes to everything. He spoke his truth, even when it was uncomfortable. He started hiking again, something he loved but had abandoned to keep himself available. He invited Sarah once, but this time it wasn't a plea. It was an offer. She could join his world or not. And that's when something shifted. Sarah looked at him differently. He hadn't changed his haircut, his clothes, or his voice, but his energy was different. She could feel that his attention was no longer something she could take for granted. It had value. Suddenly, the same man she overlooked became magnetic. Not because he became less kind, but because he became more defined. If you want to be respected, not pitied, keep listening. This is the turning point most men miss. When you move from nice to valuable, the world starts responding to you differently. People sense your boundaries. They feel your direction. They trust your strength. Being valuable doesn't mean being arrogant or cold. It means you lead with clarity. You can be kind and firm, compassionate and disciplined, generous and self-respecting. Because true kindness doesn't come from fear of rejection. It comes from abundance. You give because you choose to, not because you're afraid to lose someone. That's the kind of energy women can feel immediately. It's calm, grounded, secure. She knows you won't be shaken by her silence or flattery. You don't overpraise. You don't overpursue. You simply exist with value. When a man reaches that level, he no longer needs to say, "I'm a good guy." His presence says it for him. That's the paradox of value. When you stop trying to be liked, you become likable. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you stop bending, you begin to rise. Because in the end, nice might make you comfortable, but valuable makes you unforgettable. So stop living for approval. Stop thinking kindness means compliance. Stop believing love is earned by self-erasure. Live with purpose. Speak your truth. Protect your boundaries. Build your passion. And most importantly, stay authentic. Because authenticity is the highest form of respect, and both for yourself and for her. That's what makes a man attractive. Not charm, not wealth, not perfection, but presence rooted in principle. That's what turns the nice guy into the stoic man. Calm, clear, confident. That's the man every woman feels before she ever understands why. That's the man who becomes unforgettable. That's the true stoic way. He stares at his phone again. One message from her can make his heart race. 1 hour of silence can make his stomach drop. He tells himself he's not addicted, but deep down, he knows he is. Not to her, but to what she represents. Validation. Every smile, every text, every good morning is a tiny hit of dopamine. And like any addiction, the highs don't last. They just keep you chasing the next one. That's the modern man's silent prison. He doesn't chase women anymore. He chases approval. He needs her reaction to feel alive, her attention to feel worthy, her validation to feel like a man. But here's the brutal truth. The more you crave approval, the less you deserve it. Because approval seeking tells the world one thing: you've handed away your power. Marcus learned that the hard way. He was a good man, honest, loyal, thoughtful. But when he met Emily, all of that shifted. Every time she replied to his text, he felt unstoppable. Every time she left him on scene, he spiraled into doubt. His self-worth moved like a stock chart, up when she smiled, crashing when she didn't. He adjusted his schedule for her, changed his opinions to avoid conflict, and rearranged his entire life just to stay in her orbit. He thought it was love. It wasn't. It was dependence disguised as devotion. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. When rewards come randomly, not consistently, the brain releases more dopamine, not less. You become hooked on uncertainty. You start craving the next maybe. Every ignored text becomes a test. Every delayed reply becomes torture. You start living in cycles of anxiety and relief, high and low, validation and emptiness. It's not romance. It's chemical slavery. And it's not just about women. Most men live their entire lives trapped in this feedback loop, waiting for likes, attention, and applause. But dopamine is a liar. It gives you temporary pleasure while taking your long-term peace. It trains you to look outward for what you can only find inward. That's why Stoicism is the antidote. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be free, wish for nothing that depends on others." Because the moment your mood depends on someone else's attention, you've become their puppet. Stoic detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means ownership. It means standing in the storm without letting it own you. It means caring without craving, loving without losing yourself. It's the calm conviction that says, your reaction doesn't define me, my actions do. Marcus eventually reached his breaking point. One night, after hours of waiting for a reply that never came, something inside him snapped. But not in anger, in clarity. He realized that every time he checked his phone, every time he sought reassurance, he was reinforcing his own weakness. He wasn't addicted to Emily. He was addicted to uncertainty. So he stopped chasing. He silenced the notifications. He went to the gym. He reconnected with friends he'd ignored. He focused on his craft, the part of his life that gave him meaning before he met her. He rebuilt himself from the inside out. A month later, Emily texted again. Not because Marcus begged, but because Marcus became something she could feel again. A man with energy that didn't orbit around her. That's the paradox of approval. The moment you stop needing it, you start attracting it. When you detach, you stop feeding the loop. And when the loop starves, your mind clears. Suddenly, you have time. Time to build yourself. Time to think. Time to live. That's when real confidence begins. Because confidence isn't built through compliments. It's built through consistency. Here's how you build it. The Stoic way. 1. Journal every day. Write down what triggered you, what calmed you, what you learned. When you record your emotions, you stop being ruled by them. You move from reaction to reflection, and that shift is power. 2. Celebrate daily victories, not the big ones, the small ones. You worked out when you didn't feel like it. You spoke your truth calmly. You didn't check your phone when you wanted to. Each small win is a deposit into your self-respect. 3. Practice voluntary discomfort. Take a cold shower. Skip the easy pleasure. Push yourself in training. When you choose discomfort on your terms, life's discomforts lose their grip on you. 4. Set digital boundaries. Don't let your phone train your emotions. If you feel anxious checking it, that's not connection. That's control. You decide when to respond, how to engage, and what energy to allow. 5. Rebuild your mission. Confidence grows in the soil of purpose. When you have a direction, rejection doesn't sting. It just redirects. No woman, no comment, no silence can shake a man who knows where he's going. Every time you hold the line, you train your power. And that's the Stoic way. Detachment doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. You stop begging the world to give you peace because you've learned to generate it yourself. When you reach that level, something shifts. Your voice changes. Calmer, slower, more certain. Your energy changes. Grounded, steady, magnetic. And women can feel that difference instantly. Because now, you're no longer seeking their validation. You're inviting their alignment. You're not chasing attention. You're commanding respect. It's subtle but undeniable. The man who needs nothing attracts everything. Here's the paradox the weak never understand. Indifference isn't power. Presence is. But presence only comes when your self-worth no longer hangs on the thread of someone else's reaction. A Stoic man doesn't run from emotion. He directs it. He doesn't avoid rejection. He transforms it. He doesn't hide from silence. He owns it. That's what separates the anxious from the unshakable. When you build your confidence from within, your entire life changes. Your relationships, your work, your health, they all rise because you've stopped outsourcing your peace. And once you experience that freedom, you'll never go back. You'll stop checking for replies. You'll stop chasing apologies. You'll stop waiting for someone to make you feel enough. Because you'll be enough. Finally, completely, quietly. That's what it means to walk the true Stoic way. And from that place of quiet strength, everything you once chased will start chasing you. There's a moment, right before you speak, when silence fills the air like electricity. It's heavy, alive, uncertain. That pause, that stillness. It's where real attraction begins. Most men fear that silence. They rush to fill it with words, with jokes, with explanations. They think if they don't talk, she'll lose interest. But the truth is, the man who's comfortable in silence commands the room, because he's mastered what most people run from: tension. Picture it: a dimly lit cafe. The hum of conversation fades into the background. Across the table, she looks at him, waiting for him to speak. But he doesn't. Not out of awkwardness, but out of presence. He simply looks back, calm, grounded, unreadable. She can't tell what he's thinking, and that mystery pulls her deeper into the moment. That's the silent weapon most men never use. Silence creates what psychologists call the tension gap. It's the space between curiosity and certainty, and the human mind hates uncertainty. We're wired to close that gap, to seek answers, to resolve tension. When you master silence, you control that gap. You stop chasing. You let her wonder. You stop oversharing. You let her imagination do the work. Because here's the paradox. When you speak less, your presence speaks more. A man who fills every pause with noise tells the world, "I'm uncomfortable with stillness." A man who lets silence breathe says, "I trust my presence." And trust, not talk, builds attraction. Daniel learned this lesson by accident. He used to be like most men, eager, responsive, always available. Every time the woman he liked messaged him, he replied within seconds. He thought being fast meant being attentive, being caring, being a good communicator. But each time he chased connection with speed, something strange happened. She became distant. The more he tried to keep her attention, the faster it slipped through his fingers. And with every unread message, every delayed reply, he felt smaller. He began to wonder what he was doing wrong. Why wasn't kindness enough? Why didn't effort matter? Until one day Daniel stopped. He didn't plan it. He just got tired. He stopped waiting by his phone. He stopped responding instantly. He stopped narrating every detail of his day just to keep conversations alive. And for the first time, he didn't feel anxious about it. He felt free. Something strange happened next. The silence that once scared him began to feel powerful. When she texted, he didn't rush. He answered when he had time, not when anxiety demanded it. His words became fewer, but stronger. His tone became slower, but deeper. And she noticed. Her messages got longer. Her replies came faster. She asked more questions, and one night, she said it. "You're hard to read lately. It's kind of attractive." That was the moment Daniel realized silence isn't absence, it's presence. Seneca once wrote, "Silence is a lesson learned through many sufferings." He wasn't talking about avoiding speech. He was talking about mastering restraint. Calm restraint is one of the highest forms of strength. It's the ability to stay still when others are restless, to stay composed when emotion demands reaction, to stay mysterious when the world begs for exposure. That restraint builds a gravitational pull, because in a noisy world, silence is rare, and rarity is irresistible. When you withhold words, you create a space her mind wants to fill. When you don't over-explain yourself, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability sparks curiosity. When you're not always available, you become valuable. That's the hidden psychology of attraction. The less predictable you are, the more her dopamine system activates. Every unanswered question becomes a mental hook. Every pause becomes potential. That's the tension gap. And the man who controls it controls the energy of the interaction. Silence doesn't mean playing games. It's not ghosting or emotional manipulation. It's the art of pacing your presence, of showing that you don't depend on constant engagement to feel significant. When you can let a moment breathe without forcing connection, you project strength. When you can let her speak without rushing to fill the space, you project patience. When you can hold eye contact without flinching or performing, you project confidence. That's when she starts to feel something deeper than interest. She feels respect. Because deep down, every woman wants to feel the gravity of a man who doesn't crumble under silence. It's not the words that make her lean in. It's the tension between them. Here's the Stoic truth. Silence is not emptiness. It's a signal of self-control. It says, I don't need to perform to prove my worth. It says, I'm not afraid of stillness because I am stillness. When your silence has weight, your presence becomes unforgettable. People remember how you made them feel, not what you said. And what they'll feel around you is peace, mixed with curiosity. They'll sense that there's something about you they can't quite define. That's mystery. That's magnetism. Attraction doesn't begin in the conversation. It begins in the pause before it, in the calm confidence of a man who doesn't rush to be understood. If this resonates, subscribe, not for me, but for your evolution. Because this is what we teach at True Stoic Way. We don't teach tactics. We teach energy. We don't chase attention. We cultivate presence. So learn to love silence. Let it speak for you. Let it build the tension gap that words can't reach. When you do, you'll start noticing something incredible. People will lean in. Not because you're louder, but because you're rarer. Not because you say more, but because your silence has meaning. And in that quiet space, you'll find something far more powerful than attention. You'll find respect. Because in the end, silence isn't the absence of power. It's its highest form. That's the unspoken attraction. That's what makes a man unforgettable. That's the True Stoic Way. You've probably heard all the so-called dating rules. Don't text her first. Wait 3 days before calling. Act like you don't care. Pretend you're busy. Never compliment too soon. These rules have been repeated so many times they've become gospel for the lost. They promise certainty in an uncertain world. But here's the brutal truth. When you live by rules, you stop living at all. Because attraction doesn't come from scripts, it comes from soul. Modern dating culture has turned connection into calculation. Everyone's playing a role. Men try to be mysterious. Women try to be unattainable. Both are waiting for the other to blink first, to reveal a hint of real emotion. We've built a generation of actors rehearsing lines instead of expressing truth. The result? Fake confidence, empty conversations, and relationships that collapse the moment someone drops their mask. Rules make you rigid. They chain you to fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing, of texting too soon, of showing too much interest. And fear is the opposite of attraction. The Stoics understood this long before the world learned to swipe right. They taught that freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's being authentic no matter the outcome. Rules enslave, principles free. When you follow rules, you're performing for approval. When you live by principles, you're guided by integrity. One is manipulation, the other is mastery. Alex used to live by the rules. He watched hours of dating videos. He memorized lines, learned timing tricks, and practiced the perfect text. He waited the exact number of hours before replying, not because he was busy, but because he thought it made him seem in control. He analyzed every emoji, every pause, every word she used. But something always felt wrong. He wasn't connecting. He was performing. He was trying to win women instead of relating to them. And that performance created distance, not attraction. The women he met could sense it. The stiffness in his words, the calculation behind every move. He was saying all the right things, but none of it felt real. One day, after another date that ended in polite silence, Alex decided to stop. He stopped playing the game. He stopped pretending to be aloof. He stopped acting like he didn't care. He deleted the rules from his phone and started living by one principle: be honest, be present, be himself. If he liked someone, he told her. If he didn't, he moved on. If he wanted to share something funny, he sent it. Not because it fit a formula, but because it was genuine. And something remarkable happened. The more authentic he became, the more natural everything felt. The conversations flowed. The tension wasn't forced. The right people responded, not to his lines, but to his energy. For the first time, he wasn't chasing outcomes. He was living freely, and freedom is the ultimate aphrodisiac. That's the paradox of modern dating. The more you try to act correctly, the less human you become. Because connection isn't built through control, it's built through truth. True Stoic way is about authenticity, not manipulation. When you stop worrying about what's allowed, you start showing up as yourself. And that's when your energy becomes magnetic. Women don't want perfect men, they want real men. Men who can speak honestly, lead calmly, and feel deeply without losing control. Because real confidence doesn't come from playing games. It comes from being grounded in who you are, even when it risks rejection. Stoicism teaches this kind of grounded confidence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And your thoughts are only free when they're your own." When your mind is ruled by rules, your life becomes a script. When your mind is guided by truth, your life becomes art. Authenticity is art. It's the art of not needing to prove, not needing to please, not needing to pretend. When you're authentic, you don't have to manipulate attraction. You become it. Your energy says, "This is who I am. You can join me or not." That kind of freedom can't be faked. Because the truth is, attraction doesn't come from perfection. It comes from alignment. From being the same man in private that you are in public. From showing interest without fear, strength without arrogance, silence without insecurity. So forget the outdated dating commandments. Forget the fake detachment. Forget the play it cool mentality that's killed more connections than rejection ever did. Start asking yourself, does this feel honest? Does this reflect who I am? If the answer is no, throw it away. Lead with honesty. If you like her, show it. If you respect her, tell her. If you want to walk away, do it with peace, not anger. That's not weakness, that's clarity. Vulnerability is not a flaw. It's the highest form of courage. Most men think being open makes them look needy, but in truth, openness backed by strength is irresistible. It's saying, "I'm not afraid to be seen as I am." That's authenticity. That's freedom. When you live this way, the entire dynamic changes. You're no longer asking, "What should I do?" You're simply doing what feels true. You stop chasing tactics and start mastering yourself. You stop waiting for permission and start creating your own path. And that self-led energy, that freedom from the script, radiates confidence more powerful than any technique ever could. Because women don't fall for men who follow formulas. They fall for men who live freely. So stop memorizing lines. Stop calculating timing. Stop turning connection into a performance. The goal isn't to be the smartest man in the room. It's to be the most real. When you walk through life with truth in your voice and calm in your heart, you won't have to chase attraction. You'll embody it. Because authenticity can't be taught. It must be chosen. And once you choose it, everything fake falls away. That's when your words carry weight. That's when your silence has power. That's when you stop playing the game and start becoming the man everyone feels but can't define. That's what Stoicism calls freedom through truth. That's what real attraction looks like. And that's the true Stoic way. He used to wait for her. Every message, every glance, every half smile, he took them as signs. He rearranged his schedule just to be available. He answered every late-night text, even when he was exhausted. He told himself he was being a gentleman, but deep down he was chasing. Adrian was that man. Polite, thoughtful, but invisible. And like countless others, he believed that effort equals attraction. He thought if he just tried harder, she'd finally see his value. But she didn't. Because the man who chases always holds less power. When you chase, you send a silent message. My time is yours. My worth depends on your attention. And women can feel that, not consciously but energetically. It's not about arrogance or games, it's about polarity. Attraction is a dance of energy. When one person pursues too hard, the other instinctively retreats to restore balance. This is human psychology at its core, an unconscious dance between desire and distance. When a man chases, he creates tension in the wrong direction. Instead of mystery, there's predictability. Instead of curiosity, there's control. Instead of power, there's pleading. And nothing kills attraction faster than desperation disguised as devotion. Adrian spent years caught in that loop. He mistook availability for loyalty. He confused approval with affection. Every time a woman pulled away, he chased harder, thinking persistence would prove his worth. But all it proved was insecurity. Because when your energy screams, "I need you to choose me," you teach her that you don't choose yourself. He was giving everything and receiving nothing. Not because women didn't value him, but because he didn't value his own energy. Until one day, something changed. Adrian stopped chasing, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. He looked at his reflection and saw a man drained from giving his power away. So he made a promise, not to her, but to himself. I will never make someone else's attention my oxygen again. That promise changed everything. He started small. He stopped checking his phone every 5 minutes. He stopped canceling his plans to please others. He stopped responding to every message within seconds. Instead, he redirected that energy inward. He went back to the gym. He rebuilt his focus at work. He reconnected with his purpose, the mission he'd abandoned while chasing validation. And then, something incredible happened. The same women who once ignored him started noticing. They asked what he'd been up to. They became curious, because his energy had reversed, from chasing to drawing in. That's the psychology of energy reversal. When you stop over-investing in others and start investing in yourself, people feel it. Your attention becomes valuable. Your silence becomes powerful. Your absence becomes noticeable. It's not magic. It's polarity. Humans are drawn to what they can't easily possess. When your energy becomes grounded, focused, and self-contained, it creates a pull. Here's what most men never understand. Attraction isn't about pursuit. It's about presence. You don't win attention by chasing it. You earn it by embodying strength, direction, and calm self-respect. When you stop trying to convince someone to choose you, you create space for them to want to. That's the moment the dynamic flips. Now she's the one thinking about you. wondering what you're doing, replaying your silence in her mind. That's not manipulation. That's magnetism. Because you're no longer broadcasting neediness. You're radiating value. And people are drawn to value the same way gravity pulls everything toward its center. Epictetus said, "How long will you wait before you demand the best from yourself?" That's the core of this shift. Stop demanding from others what you haven't demanded from yourself. You want loyalty? Be loyal to your mission. You want respect? Live by your standards. You want to be pursued? Build a life worth chasing. When you demand the best from yourself, the world mirrors it back. A Stoic man doesn't chase outcomes. He attracts alignment. He doesn't run after validation. He builds discipline that commands respect. He doesn't need to be chosen. He chooses himself every single day. That's what Adrian discovered. He didn't need to prove his worth to anyone. He just needed to live it. And once he did, everything changed. Let's be clear. Making her chase you isn't about manipulation or emotional games. It's about balance. Healthy attraction requires space, polarity, and mutual effort. It's not about punishing her with silence. It's about showing that your energy is sacred, that it must be earned, not assumed. When you live with that mindset, you stop bleeding energy. You stop explaining yourself. You stop bending to be understood. Instead, you radiate a quiet power that says, "I'm not here to be chosen. I'm here to choose wisely." That's the shift from needy to noble, from chaser to chooser, from invisible to unforgettable. So how do you make that shift in your own life? 1. Prioritize your mission, your career, your goals, your growth. That's where your energy belongs first. When she sees you driven by purpose, she feels admiration, not pity. 2. Protect your time. Don't cancel plans just to be available. Your schedule is a reflection of your standards. When you treat your time as valuable, others will too. 3. Stay unpredictable. Not by playing games, but by living a life full of passion and momentum. If she can predict every move, she loses curiosity. Keep your rhythm. It's what creates intrigue. 4. Set your standards. Don't give your focus to everyone. Be selective. When your attention becomes rare, it becomes respected. 5. Lead with action. Speak less. Do more. Leadership doesn't require declarations. It's shown through consistency. When you embody these, the polarity shifts automatically. You stop chasing, and she starts investing. That's not about dominance. It's about equilibrium. The truth is simple. You don't attract women by chasing them. You attract women by chasing your purpose. When your life is full, your energy becomes magnetic. When your focus is on growth, you radiate strength. When you move with direction, you become the prize, not the pursuer. And once you feel that shift, you'll never go back to chasing again. Because real attraction doesn't start when she sees you. It starts when you see yourself. If this message wakes something in you, like, share, and keep growing with us. Because this isn't just about women. It's about reclaiming your power, your focus, your peace. It's about becoming the man who doesn't need to be chosen, because he already is. That's the energy of freedom. That's the essence of confidence. That's the true Stoic way. In the end, attraction isn't about lines, tactics, or tricks. It's not about what you say, or how perfectly you play the game. It's about who you are, and the energy you carry into every moment, because true attraction isn't something you get, it's something you become. Every lesson you've heard so far, every story, every truth, leads back to 5 unshakable Stoic principles. 5 pillars that separate the man who chases attention from the man who commands respect. Silence. The quiet power that doesn't beg to be heard. It's the stillness that holds more gravity than words ever could. When you master silence, you no longer fear pauses. You let tension breathe. You let curiosity build. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's control. It's the ability to speak without speaking, to influence without performing. Purpose, the magnetic force behind all attraction. Purpose gives your life structure. It pulls you out of chaos and centers your energy. A man without purpose is a leaf in the wind, tossed, fragile, forgettable. But a man with purpose radiates certainty. He doesn't chase women, money, or status. He chases mastery, and in doing so, everything else follows him. Growth, the fire that never goes out. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you expand. Every time you face discomfort, you rise. The man who's always improving becomes a moving target. Impossible to ignore. Because growth isn't just attractive, it's contagious. It inspires others to rise alongside you. Boundaries. The invisible lines that define your worth. Boundaries are not walls. They're gates that protect your energy. When you say no with calm conviction, you tell the world, I respect myself. And respect is the foundation of all attraction. Because a man without boundaries isn't kind, he's weak. But a man who guards his peace commands admiration. Mystery. The art of restraint in a world addicted to oversharing. Mystery isn't manipulation, it's depth. It's the decision to keep parts of yourself sacred, to let curiosity do the work. Because what's fully known is easily forgotten. But what's partially hidden lives rent-free in the mind. That's the beauty of mystery. It invites imagination, and imagination fuels desire. These 5 principles form the Stoic core of attraction. Together they create an energy no one can fake. Calm, steady, magnetic. When you embody silence, you control the room. When you live with purpose, you control your path. When you commit to growth, you control your destiny. When you hold your boundaries, you control your peace. When you guard your mystery, you control your presence. That's what real power looks like. Not dominance over others, but mastery over yourself. Because attraction isn't about pursuit. It's about gravity. The silent pull of a man who knows his value and doesn't compromise it for attention. So ask yourself, who are you becoming when no one's watching? What does your silence say when you walk into a room? Does your life reflect discipline or distraction? Are you building presence or chasing permission? Only you can answer that, and your answer determines everything. The truth is, most men spend their lives chasing validation. From women, from society, from a world that tells them to perform instead of lead. But the Stoic man knows better. He understands that attention fades, but respect endures. He doesn't need to impress. He doesn't need to convince. He simply is. And that presence, unshakable, disciplined, and authentic, draws everything toward him. Because a man who needs nothing is the man who attracts everything. So stand tall, speak less, move with purpose, grow endlessly, protect your peace, embrace your mystery. Because when you live that way, you won't need to chase anyone. They'll feel your gravity from miles away. This is true Stoic way, where we build men who don't chase attention. They attract respect, subscribe, and start becoming the man you were meant to be.